Okay, hey, it's me, David Washington. It's the David Washington Show. Hey, I am going to be out of town. And so instead of broadcasting, recording from the Oxford in Altamont Springs, I'm doing a little something at Washington Manor South before I get out of town. Welcome to the David Washington Show. I really appreciate you tuning in. Um, Lots going on right now. We had the Trump civil trial in regards to the allegations of sexual assault. We have a whole lot of stuff going on with the U.S. Supreme Court justices, which I'll be getting into. But before I do, you know, we're growing our community, and we always say this. We will really appreciate your help in letting people know about what we do and what we're talking about and how we go about it. Um, Share this content if you like it. If you don't like it, please comment, let us know. We want to provide you with content that will get you closer to solutions, a better understanding of what's going on as far as politics, as far as your kitchen table issues, or just current affairs in general. So please like, share, subscribe, let the whole world know that we have the David Washington Show. We have You Can't Make This Shit Up, the flagship podcast of Jay in Washington. And of course, we have the Morning Constitution with Joel Hawksley. So jumping into it, as you can tell from the title there, Ginni Thomas and Chief. I'm sorry, I got I got so much on my mind about these two. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thompson. Look at that! I can't even say it right. It just I don't know. I was watching Frontline, the Frontline special this week on Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife Ginni Thomas, and I am so intrigued by what makes Clarence Thomas, Justice Thomas, tick. And I did not watch the whole nearly 2 hour segment on the Thomases. However, and I'll come back to this, like I'll come back to Elmer Stewart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers and the first to be convicted of seditious conspiracy. And there were more who were convicted of seditious conspiracy. I'm going to do a whole big thing on that, doing a lot of research on that. But back to the Thomases. And there were two things that stood out so far. One, his young history as a young man, first in Georgia, Pinpoint, Georgia, if I remember correctly, growing up with his mother, who then moved him and his brother with their grandfather in, I believe that was Savannah, Georgia. I'll have to go back and double check. And then also, then Yale Law student Clarence Thomas at Yale Law, and how that had an effect on him. And one thing, man, there's so much to talk about. Let's talk about his youth, the little part that I saw. And I'm not going to go too deep. I can't really talk much about it because I didn't see the whole thing. And then I'm going to do some other research to learn a little bit more about Justice Thomas and go into some of his own words, his biography. But anyway, growing up with his mother and brother, she married several times. There wasn't a significant father figure in the home for Justice Thomas at the time, for young Clarence. And I'm sure that had an effect on him growing up as a young man. And then, there's the colorism within the Black community at that time. For those of you who are old enough who have studied, if you recall the paper bag test. Yes, the paper bag test. My parents told me about this growing up, is that if you were darker than a paper bag, your outcome in life would not have been successful. You were looked down upon. And young Clarence was dark. He was a dark young man. And as he described, with a flat nose and kinky hair. And there wasn't much prospect for him, even within the black community at the time. So he had, the racism of that time in Jim Crow South, and the colorism, racism, the colorism within the black community. When he was moved to with his grandfather, his brother, his grandfather paid for their school. However, he was very strict. He would lock them up in the closet for punishment. He would beat them, and this, of course, had its impression on young Clarence. The violence of the sole dominant black male figure in his life. And there's more to talk to this later. Um, at one point, Clarence was looked upon as, in his high school years, as probably the first black priest in his town. He was taught by nuns who, one in particular, took a special interest in him and saw the potential in young Clarence, a very intelligent young man. Now let's jump into his days at Yale Law School. We'll get to his years at Holy Cross, but let's go to Yale Law School, where it was pretty much known. Hey, you go to Yale Law, you got yourself a job waiting for you after you graduate. It was almost automatic. However, and this is the current thing, it seems, throughout um, Clarence Thomas's life, is that he felt kind of out of place, that he needed to be different than the others, needed to be different from the other students, needed to be different from the blacks that he attended Yale Law with, or blacks in general. But what blew me away was that Clarence was part of the pro-black movement. I was like, whoa! In Malcolm X, the words, the philosophy of Malcolm X had a profound effect on Clarence during those years. And it wasn't until the Harvard Square riots that Clarence Thomas said, wait a second, this ain't me. This ain't me. And he moved away from the black power, the black independence, or the black movement. And I see a more complex Clarence Thomas developing. He wanted to be so different. He wore a t-shirt and overalls, unlike everyone else. We're talking about the 60s, free love and, you know, cultural revolution. He stood out, definitely stood out. His roommate was John Bolton. Yes, former, you know, ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, national security advisor to then President Donald Trump. That hawk, John Bolton, which I've grown over the years since the Iraq wars, a little bit more respect for him, particularly on his stance on Trump, his candidacy, and his presidency. However, John Bolton gave some really good insight into his friend, Clarence Thomas. Um, when Clarence graduated from Yale, he didn't have the offers to work at those prestigious law firms. Hey, it was like, hey, Yale Law, check, automatic. Go make your money. Go get that bag, Clarence. But there were no offers, none, from these prestigious law firms. And he kept those letters of rejection. And he still has them as a reminder of not being accepted, of being rejected. And he has on his Yale Law degree a little price tag. And if I remember correctly, on that price tag, it says 10 cents. Hanging on his wall, the law degree from Yale, framed with a price tag that says 10 cents. For all the work, all the brilliance of Clarence Thomas. He said that was worth that law degree from Yale, one of the most prestigious schools in the world. That law degree was worth 10 cents because it did not fulfill his promise of Clarence Thomas getting that prestigious job at one of the big law firms in New York. And I believe because of this disappointment, because of the struggles of trying to be different, to stand out, to excel outside of the box, outside of affirmative action, which he felt that, that was why, that his white peers at Yale felt that was why there were black students at Yale, affirmative action. He wanted to excel outside those boxes that people put him into, or that he perceived them to put him into. I can't wait to finish watching, this particular Frontline expose. It's on PBS. I was watching it on YouTube. This is you don't really know a person until you take the time to understand them. And for a long time, from the days of his confirmation hearing, the famous high-tech lynching comment by then nominee Clarence Thomas, to where he's at now, one of the pillars of very conservative thought and jurisprudence. It's phenomenal that I'm having this opportunity to learn a little bit more and possibly have a greater respect for the justice, the man, Clarence Thomas. We'll see. Anyway, hey, Don't forget the Morning Constitution, the flagship podcast. You can't make this shit up. Very good friend, a very good man, an awesome entrepreneur and attorney. Charles Richardson is co-hosting. You can't make this shit up. I think it's going to be great. Charlo will be having his own podcast soon. And I am really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to giving him any type of mentorship, advice, counsel to make his content the best content that is available on the internet and elsewhere. Again, please like, share, hit the notification buttons. There's a lot of great things happening at Jay in Washington. We would love for you to be a part of it. Visit us on all the social medias. We're all over the place. There's a whole lot going on. There's a lot on my shoulders, but you know something? I don't expect anything less of myself. You gotta go out there and do the work. Get the bag. Take care of business. So again, I really appreciate everything. Let us know what we can do better, what we could do more of, do less of. But we've got content coming out almost daily. Oh, and don't forget, hey, don't forget 5 minutes every Monday of political and campaign management know-how, innuendo, and secret sauce. Tabletop. Oh, no, wait a second. That's not it. Countertop politics. That's it. Countertop politics by yours truly. Every Monday, 5 minutes of political innuendo, insider information, secret sauce, countertop politics. Hey, make sure you check it out. Make sure you hit the notification button. If you like what you hear, share it with others. Let's grow our community together. I really appreciate everything that you all do for us. Please, if you see me on the street, if you see me on the internet, whatever, stop, make a comment, say hello, you know something. I love what I do. I hope that you love the content that we're putting out there. You can't make this shit up. I love it. I really do. God bless. We'll see you the next time.